Hi, Lupe. How are you doing today? Today we're going to be interviewing you about your physical development and mental development from your childhood to now to when you're a full-grown 34-year-old woman.
Yes.
And just so you know, we will be recording this.
Okay.
Cool. So, since your childhood, have you had any physical changes to your body? Like, for example, menstruation, and how did it have an effect on the rest of your life?
Well, since being a child to now, of course, a lot of things have changed. From basically my weight till when I was a child till now has physically changed. I was a little bit overweight when I was a child, and now I am consider myself a fit woman after having 4 kids.
Um, were you um, were you changed into that direction of being fit and stuff because your own personal choice, or was it done through people recommending that to you, or were you overly obese or just chubby, as people say?
Well, it would contribute as non-healthy eating. When I was small, I was, basically not forced to eat, certain type of food, but literally eat what you were given, what you would have to eat, which, contribute to a non-healthy eating, which led to obesity. And now that I'm older, you basically just eat what you want to eat. So, what I know it's right now. So I'm more into the nutrition side.
Nutrition side. And do you think that kind of diet was given to you maybe because of like your ethnic background? Do you think like most like Latinos or Hispanics are known to kind of have a different type of diet than kind of the cheaper stuff? Sometimes I've heard from other patients that usually when Latinos usually try to go for the cheaper, trying to get more of something, but usually ends up being less healthy, like chips and stuff.
Yes, that's correct. It has a lot to do with the Mexican culture because of our parents. They usually tend to eat like more fatty food than here in America. We tend to eat healthier. So growing up in the Mexican culture, it has a lot to do with it, with their food. It leads to obesity, which led to my obesity and self-conscious because.
Do you think that had an effect on your self-esteem, like in your teenage years?
Oh yeah, it actually did. It had a lot to do with it.
Like negative or positive?
We can say, up to when I was like, elementary to, we can say up to middle school, we can say it was, kind of like a negative because I didn't see myself as a, fit, attractive. I couldn't really relate to who I wanted to be or where I was or who I was trying to be. That just it took a really toll to the negative side.
Okay, and how was your family about the subject? Were they kind of influencing you to kind of be healthier, or were they, kind of
Well, once again, like I said, like coming from a Hispanic family, um, our parents really just tend to like leave that subject out of, it shouldn't even be a subject. You try to basically talk about it, and it's like, it's something that they're not really trying to hear. They were mostly conscious of like, something else. Weight to them is not an issue. It's just something that it's there.
Like natural.
It's just natural.
Did that somehow affect your social life? Like, being overweight, did it have any effect on the people who you hung out with? Like how you felt? Did you have like a lowered self-esteem, like that you did not want to hang out with people sometimes because you felt as if you were different, or did that not have a toll on you at all?
It did because I would look at some of my friends and I would say, well, I would want my clothes to fit the same way, or if I bought the same thing as they did, it would think that it would fit me the same way. But in the end, it's just you. It doesn't doesn't look the same way. When trying or trying to be healthier, or even coming to your parents about it, they would just say like, "Oh, you're overreacting. Oh, you're dumb. Oh, you just stop." And when you lean to your friends, they would just basically say, "Come on, like you're just chubby, or it's because you always eat, or just they want it." It really didn't matter back then.
Yeah. And once you were over that phase, like, you say you got into being fit and stuff, did you still carry on, like, some of that baggage, like, of, sentimental value that, you know, kind of like being let down, feeling down about stuff, or did you, like, completely just become a new person, like, as of now, like, your adult life?
Well, now that I'm an adult, like, you learn to cope with a lot of things. Basically, you basically take all that negative and you just wrap it around, and you just say like, because of that, it's what I'm gonna become. And you just learn to turn all that negative into something positive, and that literally pushes you to become someone new. Like, and for me, it ended up finally stepping into a fitness center and saying, I this is where it's gonna end. I don't want that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear the good. Oh, you're fit. Oh, you're healthy. Oh, you're looking great. Oh, you look better. Or look at how you were before and look at you now.
Yeah, like the expression.
Yeah.
And was there anyone, like, important in your life who kind of helped you take that step? Or was it kind of like that like your own choice to, like...
It was more like I had to prove myself that I can do it. Because in the long run, ever since I was young, I always said I'm gonna do it. But it was just something that it kept being interrupted by something else. And it never got done till now.
By any chance, around what age did you begin, like, menstruating and going through puberty and physical, like, drastic physical changes?
Well, that was when I was 13. When I was 13, around that time, if I can remember, was the time where I started seeing like my body change. Started more seeing like getting that girly feeling where you want to start looking nice and wearing, basically like start wearing your hair down if you wear it up.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. What age did you have your first boyfriend?
When I was 14.
14. Was this around? Do you think it was triggered by maybe going through that change in your teenage years of like menstruating and puberty, or do you think it was just like?
I think it has to do with like menstrual period has something to do with it, but ultimately I think it's society around you that just basically you tend to do what you see, and it's just something that it comes and you won't even know. You just when you're there and at the time it's like it just happens.
When you were going through that phase, did you feel like how did you feel about your metabolism? Like, did you feel like you would want to be eating all the time, or was it more like a stable kind of thing? Or
actually, no, my metabolism went slow because I was eating at the time, and I knew that it was slow now because going back, I was chubby, so my metabolism was slow, and that means that I was eating, and at the same time I was gaining weight.
Gaining more weight.
And during that depression of gaining weight, I was, going into depression and stress, which led to more gain weight.
Yeah. Were you around that time? Were you like really into socializing, or more of?
I tried to. I guess you can say that you try to forget about it by socializing, by trying to be attracted to other people, or by trying to be with your friends. It's just a type of way that you try to forget about other things.
Now we're gonna move on to a section of like your memory change and like how you think of stuff. Around what age do you think that you began to realize that maybe the stuff that your parents are telling you, you're able to argue about the subject or take a different position and kind of challenge them? At what age did you begin to experience those kinds of?
Well, when I was, you can say when I was 17, I started like emancipating myself. Basically, just, like I said, we come from a Latin family, Hispanic, where you're taught to do things for yourself. So basically, we grow up emancipating ourselves. At that age of 17, I started realizing, like, wow, like, this is what works for me. And my mom says this is the way it should be, but it's not the way that works for me. So that's when it became a challenge between, a daughter and a mom, where I wanted to do certain things and challenge their word.
Did that kind of form a bond, or did it send boundaries between you and your parents?
It descended boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it led to, like being grounded, being looked at as a bad child, or, the communication was not there anymore. It was lost because, you're trying to talk to her in a certain way that you think, but yet she has lived longer than you. So yet she's going to stick to what she says.
At a certain point, did you feel like you had to hide stuff from your parents, maybe because they didn't agree with it?
Of course.
Yeah?
Yes.
Like, for example?
Just like drugs, boyfriends, letters, emotional feelings, thoughts.
Do you think it's also because of how Mexican culture sees it as you have a boyfriend, you have to occasionally see him, and nothing happens until you get married? Or is it just because they just didn't want a boyfriend in your life?
They just didn't want a boyfriend at the time. I guess she was dealing with her own issues and was not really like concentrating. So I felt like for me putting some of my issues out there, it would just add on to her bag of issues.
Do you think that her own problems that she had she put them out on you guys? Like, what kind of problems was your mother experiencing at the moment?
Well, at the moment she was dealing with like financial problems, I guess emotional problems, and just in general, like basically family stress problems. So at the time, when you're dealing with your teen years, you've seen all of that. You just choose not to put your personal ones out there because you might not just get the answer that you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
So you look for comfort in drugs or your friends or simply just a getaway.
Yeah. Have you ever talked to a counselor before?
I did. Back when I was in my teens again, I think I remember I was like 15. It did help, but in the end, you end up going back to the same bed, and you end up going to the same parent that's still not going to hear you.
Yeah. Have you ever been in trouble with the law?
Actually, I've done everything but be in trouble with the law.
Has there been any big events in your life that kind of have an impact on how you are now? Like any important events that occurred in your life?
Yeah. Well,
maybe even like the birth of your children and how you are today. Like it's helped you mature, or has it still kind of like now you just have to look after people, or has it changed the way that you look at the world?
Well, after I have 4 kids. So giving birth to 4 kids has been a drastically change because throughout the 4, I had C-sections, and it's not easy having them. but basically you're just forced, or not literally forced, but you're, basically you just have to grow up. Even if you're not ready for it, it's something like it just comes and it hits you. And now, the way it has changed me, it just makes me more caring, more mother figuring, to even people that are my age. I can, that don't have kids, I can relate more to a mother.
If you had a chance of going back, would you change any of the things you did, or would it still take the same path?
If I could go back, I wouldn't. I wouldn't erase the fact that I have my kids, or even that I met the father of my kids. I would, if I had a chance and I can take an eraser, I would erase the part where when I was 15 and I left my mom's house.
Well, why did you leave your mom's house?
Because at the time, she had kicked me out of her house, and I took it like really offensive. So for trying to show her basically a lesson, I ended up leaving and not coming back till when I was 18. So that's the only part that I feel like, because of that, space there, we would never have the same bond. There was time lost, and there's no bond. She cannot see me as a real daughter, and I cannot see her as a real mom.
Does that problem still persist today?
It actually does.
Yeah, and is it one of these main problems you like right now?
It does. It is, because I still feel like I deserve an apology and some type of closure towards that time of my life, and she can't acknowledge that it was because of her, or she had something to do with it. I'm not saying completely take all the blame, but she has not acknowledged the fact that affects me today. And because she can't acknowledge that, then it just becomes into anger towards me. Anger that I just want to show her, because she can't do that. It would be different if she came and she said, you know what, like, I acknowledge that hurted you, and at that time I was not paying attention or anything, but she can't even do that. Mm-hmm. So if she can't do that, it makes me not want to try.
Yeah. Were you ever abused as a child, or like hit by your parents, or like seeing domestic abuse around your parents?
Well, actually, no. My mom was never the type to be abusive. She was more like mentally abusive than less, physically. Physically, never can. I honestly could tell you, like, we never got hit. Mm-hmm. We never got spanked. We never got anything done. We got more the mentally, because it was just like, you're gonna do that, you're gonna be like this, or you're just gonna end up like her, you're gonna end up like him, or when I bet you're not gonna do this. It was just more like you.
Yeah. And do you feel like that has an effect on how you will raise your children, or how you are already raising your children?
Yeah, it actually does, because before I even say anything, I make sure that I don't say it exactly like she said it, or I make sure that I just don't let it get to that point.
Cool. Do you have any phobias and fears?
I do. It's basically like, my biggest fear is to just be alone. To end up alone, and to the point where I say, like, who can I really turn to? Not being able to trust anybody. Like, if you can't trust your own mom and your own family, who can you trust?
Yeah. And has that ever made you, like, kind of want to put yourself down, or like hurt yourself in some type of way? Have you ever, maybe not physically, but maybe by substance abuse and stuff like that?
Yes, there was a time in my life where I just, couldn't take it anymore. I basically said, I'm here on Earth. Like, I just felt like I was here on Earth by myself, even being raised among four other siblings. Basically, nobody was there. We don't really have that bond ever since my left when I was 15. Between my brothers and sisters, we don't have that bond. So I'm basically more like the outsider, and I was looking for comfort and basically like a loved one, or a relationship. And then when that didn't turn out,
did you ever kind of get with a partner, have a relationship, just so you wouldn't feel that emptiness?
Yeah, I actually did. I did, like, that's what I meant. Like,
just to be able to have
just to be able to feel like a home. You would just basically be with anybody. You didn't really know the person, and then you would be there.
And let's say, what did you doing drugs, and you said you drank before, or just drugs?
Well, in 2008, I used to be a heavy drinker. It would not pass by me. Every Friday, I would drink a whole bottle. Every Friday.
And did it make you feel better about yourself?
At the time, it did. It made me forget my problems. I didn't have any kids, so it just felt like it was the right thing to do. I don't know about fixing the problems. It didn't, but it's just the way that it makes you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like you cannot. It comes a point to your life where you just want to forget about everything. So that just helped.
Once the abuse was over, how did you feel afterwards? Did you feel like you needed to keep on drinking, or?
Oh yeah, like the drinking got really, really bad to the point where I ended up at the hospital. My alcohol level was 3 times the normal limit. I ended up being, so intoxicated that it lasted almost a week. My intoxicated. So that was really bad. That experience helped me actually get rid of alcohol.
Wow.
It's weird in a way, but because of that, it just made me say like no more.
So like a life changing event.
It was a life changing event.
Do you have any grudge, or do you hate your mother or father?
I cannot use the word hate. But disappointment, yes. Or